Hi guys, today we are going to meet an innovative college professor who is using the audiovisual technology installed in her classroom to create a hybrid learning experience for both in-person students and remote learning. We are going to get the chance to see how remote students are engaging in this hybrid learning environment, and we'll see how the professor is using two PTZ cameras to keep remote students and in-person students engaged. The remote students will be coming in via Zoom.
How have the PTZ Optics cameras helped me to lead class for both in-person and remote students? Well, I don't think I could lead class for both in-person and remote students without them, because I need the cameras to keep everyone engaged and feeling connected. At any given time when I'm teaching, I do have students in person in the classroom, and I also have students coming into that same class through Zoom, through the big screen at the front of the classroom. So I use the PTZ Optics cameras to help the students to see one another while we're having a class discussion, to possibly, using the camera in the back of the room, I can have the remote learners see me standing in the front of the room lecturing. If their classmates are speaking, I can use a different camera so that the remote learners can watch their classmates speaking. I definitely need those cameras to keep the remote and in-person students engaged in the one class. Keeping remote students engaged in this hybrid learning environment has been a journey of discovery for me as an instructor. And I have to say, I think I'm just starting to feel that I figured out a way to keep the students engaged. And I should probably start by telling you that when I first had the experience last fall of having, being here in the classroom, but having some of my students coming in remotely through Zoom, I feel like I was forgetting they were there sometimes. I was speaking to the physically present students, and I felt like I had my back to the screen. So if you think about it, the screen is at the front of the classroom. So I would forget to turn around, and then I realized I have cameras in my classroom. I have these great PTZ Optics cameras, and at first I had not used them for like the first month. I didn't realize that it would change everything. Then I started using the cameras, and I realized I didn't need to be turning around, turning my back on one population of in-person learners to look at the screen to see the remote learners up on the screen. I could use the cameras, and I could stay in one position and keep everyone engaged by having different views of the classroom with using the front and back cameras. I think that's the best way I can explain that I use them to keep the remote learners engaged. What have my students said about this new way of attending class? You know what's interesting? My students really haven't made any comments, and now that I think about it, it seems so natural for them. They show up to class on time, everyone logs in to the Zoom or enters the classroom. They have never commented on the fact that, I'm switching the cameras around, and sometimes they're seeing me, sometimes they're seeing their classmates, sometimes I'm zooming into something. And I wonder if they even realize that in my mind, while I'm trying to teach the course, I'm also thinking about their experience and trying to make sure they feel part of this one big happy family in the classroom, even though some of us are physically present and some of us are virtually present. I wonder if they even realize that I'm constantly thinking about that and using the cameras to create that experience. The only time they really ever said anything was when we did breakout rooms so I had the entire class break out into groups of 2 to discuss something. So I used, obviously the people in class were just, 6 feet apart. Of course, our desks are 6 feet apart, but they were able to talk with their masks on in groups of 2. And then for the remote learners, I used Zoom and breakout rooms to let them talk quickly in groups of 2. And then we came back to as like one big large group, and using the PTZ Optics cameras in the front and back of the room, we were able to have this like big one group discussion and share our ideas. What have I learned? I've learned about using these cameras, right? I've never done anything like this before. As I said, even in the fall, when I entered into this experience, I kind of thought, okay, it's just students on Zoom and students in the seats in the desks, and we've got to make it work. And even though the cameras were there, I hadn't even thought about the role they would play. Now, after teaching week after week after week, I've come to learn that they play a critical role in the engagement of each student, remote and physically present. I've learned how to use them, how to not use them. You know, like you don't want to be moving things around too quickly because they lose their train of thought if you're zooming in too fast or too slow. So I've learned to kind of be very careful about when I do that. There's so much I've learned in the time of the pandemic and being an instructor and using technology, but specific to the use of the cameras in the classroom, those are the things I've learned.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and share this video with someone that you might think finds it useful. The professor here was actually included in my book, Technology Tools for Online Education, where she helped me understand how she's using some of this technology. So you can download that book for free at the links below. Thanks so much for watching.
Hello and welcome to the PTZ Optics educational webinar. I'm Julia Sherwin with PTZ Optics. Well, it's been about a year since we all hunkered down in our homes and tried to connect remotely. And if schools have learned anything, it's that preparation is key. We are getting vaccinated, but some colleges are actually requiring vaccinations. So we're in this flux of still uncertainty, but we're going to take you through some technologies today that will help to get you that high flex hybrid classroom. That word we're hearing all around us right now is hybrid, high flex. Just having that flexibility for students who may want to retain a remote status and those who are able to come back into classrooms. So I know Paul's got a lot to share with you for technology today. We've got a video to share with you from an installation that PTZ Optics was involved with Rosemont College, which is a smaller liberal arts college outside of the Philadelphia in the Philadelphia suburbs here in our area. So I think you'll really enjoy today's presentation. Don't forget to join in Zoom. There's a link to the Gleam. There's a giveaway. Somebody today will win a HuddleCamHD Pro. And at the end of today's session, we'll have some time for Q&A. Of course, feel free to drop your questions here into the chat, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can today. So without further ado, I'll introduce my co-host today, Paul Richards with PTZ Optics.
Hi, everybody. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining today. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our presentation all about instructional technology. And I'm going to demonstrate all of these cameras for you guys today and answer questions as well. So ask your questions on YouTube or the Zoom chat, and we will get to answering them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And you can see that we have instructional technology for online education. So this is going to be pretty cool. And let's get started. So first of all, as Julia mentioned, Mike, if you can show my presentation here, we have a QR code that you can scan. I want to make sure everyone does get the opportunity to, let me hide the video panel here. Show video panel, hide video. There it is, hide floating meeting controls. If you scan that code, you can enter to win a HuddleCamHD Pro. That's one of the webcams we're going to show off today. It's such a great USB connected, Zoom certified webcam for online meetings and collaborations. So we've all been tasked with reinventing the classroom, and luckily there is funding available from the government to do so. And it's just a really important portion of what we're all been asked to do. When we were asked, 2/3 of professors said their experience teaching remotely this spring was positive. So that's a really good sign. And I've talked to a lot of professors saying that, they can do this. They're just going to need some help, and they're willing to be flexible. They're willing to learn, and we're really excited to be part of that. Now, what are some of the technologies that people are using? Well, auto tracking cameras is a really popular one that we're going to show. The reason why it's so popular is because it really reduces the need for a camera operator, and a teacher can just walk into the room and the camera will follow them. Obviously, Zoom is very popular. Touchscreen monitors, SDI cameras in many scenarios are being used from PTZ Optics, which we'll talk about. USB plug-and-play cameras and technology, and then devices for capturing, streaming, and recording lectures. So we'll look into all that. The focus today will be classroom cameras, and we'll talk about different workflows and answer a lot of questions that I'm sure will come up. Now, the first scenario I want to show is our affordable setup from HuddleCam. And this setup is very affordable. Let me try to hide this again. It's 3x optical zoom, and we pair it many times with our wireless HuddlePod Air. And together, these two units are only $698. So a pan tilt zoom camera, you can see on the back here, it plugs right in via USB. And then the HuddlePod Air, again, just plug and play wireless USB technology. So that's really where HuddleCam, our sister company at PTZ Optics, comes into play. And you can see that these together for a very small, affordable classroom can work really well. Another simple product is called the HuddleCam 3XA. And we took really one of the most popular web conferencing cameras that's USB connected, and we added audio. So it has beam-forming microphones here built into this camera. So there's 2 microphones. The reason why this is very nice for a lot of classrooms, and we have a lot of school districts who've standardized on this camera, a single USB 2.0 connection for your PTZ camera and your microphone. And that's ideal if the classroom already has a speaker, which might be built directly into a television or a projector that's already in the classroom. Now, I want to show how this works here, because you can see in a normal classroom setting, it's nice to be able to have optical zoom. So the HuddleCam 3X and 10X have a little bit different optical zoom. 10X can zoom in further, and we have a tool on our website which will show you kind of what that field of view looks like. But it also has a wide microphone pickup range, and the beam-forming microphones start at the camera and they go out in a kind of beam to capture the audio for the whole classroom. So it's a very easy to use software, plug and play with Zoom. It works with Zoom rooms and the remote Zoom control. So we're going to look at we obviously talked about the 3X and the 3XA. I'm also going to do a live demo of the SimpleTrack 2 in a moment, which is our auto tracking camera. We're going to kind of dig into that a lot. But I wanted to take a second to talk about webcams. At HuddleCam, we have 3 webcams, kind of a good, better, and a best. And our starting webcam is just a simple USB 2.0 webcam that works with Zoom, and it's plug and play. It's 1080p. And the PTZ Optics cameras now include a free webcam whenever you get a PTZ Optics camera. Then kind of the big brothers, the better and the best here, is the HuddleCamHD Pro, which our producer over here is going to show to you guys today. This camera is a 4K camera. And you might think, well, Zoom really only supports 720p. Why would you need 4K? Well, take a look what a 4K camera can do when you can digitally zoom in. And so here Mike this is our producer. He's got a IR remote control that comes with the HuddleCamHD Pro, and it allows a teacher to be able to zoom in and pan, tilt, and zoom, and be able to show things more clearly to a remote student. So if you have a whiteboard behind you, you can actually set presets like a PTZ camera. And the price of this camera is only $299. So it's a very great camera for that teacher that wants to upgrade their experience, or who is maybe teaching from home, maybe 2 or 3 days out of the week. I know a lot of schools are starting to share classrooms. So you got these PTZ presets that work just like a PTZ camera, and it's Zoom certified. So it works with all of the Zoom integrations. There's also an NDI version, which is powered over Ethernet. So if you've run out of USB ports, if you want to extend a camera a long distance away from your computer that maybe you're using, the Ethernet connectivity is really nice, and that's a power over Ethernet NDI webcam. Very cool product there. So we wanted to show those off and show some examples of what electronic pan tilt zoom can do. The cool thing about electronic pan tilt zoom is it doesn't require any motors, right? So it's no motors. It has a 5-year warranty, and it really lasts for a long time. It's a 4K capable camera. Now, the next camera that is actually pretty popular is called the Huddle View, or sorry, the Huddle Pair. And the Huddle Pair is a wireless USB speakerphone that includes a camera. So this camera here is a wide angle USB camera that can be put on top of a monitor. And it is only $499, and it's paired with a wireless chat pod. So again, a lot of our customers were saying, hey, look, can we get just a single USB connection? We're running out of USB connections on our Chromebooks, on our MacBooks, on our Windows computers. The lower amount of USB ports that we need, the better. So the Huddle Pair came from the very popular Huddle Pod Air and the Huddle Pod Air Duo. The Huddle Pod Air is a wireless USB speakerphone, has 8 hours of battery life, and it can cover roughly a 12-foot radius, or 3 meters. Or I guess that'd be 4 meters. The HuddlePod Air Duo is just double the coverage for slightly larger rooms. They use 2.4 gigahertz wireless radiuses there. So that's a really cool product line for making wireless plug and play video communications easy. So today I'm going to be showing off the SimpleTrack 2. And the SimpleTrack 2 is an AI-based auto tracking camera with a lot of connectivity. So I'll show the back of this camera here. We've got USB for plug and play directly with any computer. We've got SDI, which is great for longer cable runs because this camera can be up to 50 feet from a presenter. DVI, which comes with the DVI to HDMI converter. We have Ethernet, which allows you to manage these cameras when you deploy them on your network. Audio for streaming, and then an SD card slot for recording lectures directly to the camera or directly to the hard drive of the computer connected to this camera. So we're going to take a really deep dive into this camera because it's so popular for education. I want to do a live demo, but I also wanted to talk about a couple of these features as well. So the first thing is the adjustable tracking zones. And so I want to show this off with two different SimpleTracks. So this SimpleTrack that I have set up gives me almost a full head and body shot, right? You can see my feet, you can see my head, and more importantly, when I come to a presentation space, you really want to make sure that the entire presentation space can be captured. So if there's a television or there's a whiteboard or a blackboard, the nice thing about the SimpleTrack 2 is it allows us to customize the height and width. Now let me show you another auto tracking camera here. This one is more of a head and shoulders shot, right? And so this one does a really good job of letting the teacher kind of be eye level. And everybody has different opinions on how to do this. You can see in this presentation space over here, you can basically see my whole television here, but you might want to, adjust that framing. So that adjustable tracking mode and framing is a big part of what makes the SimpleTrack so popular in education. My next slide talks a little bit about the technology behind the SimpleTrack 2. And this is the software. We're going to take a peek at this and answer questions for this. But the software allows you to define a tracking zone, and within that tracking zone, set up blocking zones. So this is a movable GIF here. So this will kind of give you an idea of how it works. The inside of the tracking zone, we're blocking the students' heads and we're blocking the projector, because any movement in the students area or from the projector, we don't want to, set off any of the motion. Also, inside this area, we have the ability to have preset zones. And when a teacher walks in front of these preset zones, we can do a couple different really great things. One is we could zoom directly into a known spot and stop there. And that's really nice if a teacher likes to sit at a lecture. There's no need to have the camera go back and forth, even a little bit, when the teacher's standing at the lectern. So these preset zones allow us to further optimize the tracking capabilities depending on where the teacher is in the space. Another thing that we can do with preset zones is we can actually automate control systems and third-party software. So a preset zone can actually send a trigger to a Crestron system to switch the video, maybe switch to a presentation. You can maybe you're sending that video to an Echo 360 or a media site or an Epiphan Pearl. So there's a lot we can do with these preset zones that really makes the SimpleTrack a special camera. We'll also take a peek at the camera management software. And this software allows you to manage all of the SimpleTrack 2s on your network. It allows you to configure all of the fine-tune adjustments for pan, tilt, and zoom speeds, tracking sensitivity. It also allows you to record directly to the computer connected to the camera or directly to an SD card, although probably 90% of our customers are recording to a content management system or a learning management system like Blackboard or Moodle or Echo 360. I talked a little bit about touchless control and automation using these preset zones, but I want to stress that touchless is important. And in this modern world, it's nice to be able to give a teacher a way to control their audio-visual system without having to touch a surface that might need to be cleaned later. And that's where these preset zones come into play, because we can tell the Crestron system to do something specific when a teacher walks in front of a specific area, using that 4K reference camera on the bottom of the camera. So pretty cool stuff. And this camera is able to live stream. So you can live stream directly from this camera directly to Blackboard, to Facebook, to YouTube, Panopto. It is live streaming ready, and it's got that audio input there if you'd like to include audio with the live stream. So a customer of ours, and we have a case study video on our website that we can share, you can take a look at, is the SimpleTrack 2 being used with Echo 360. And Echo 360 is a great lecture capture system. It captures video via SDI and HDMI so that the teacher and the students can look and kind of choose whether they want to see the presentation or the notes captured from the whiteboard. But what really is amazing about this lecture capture solution is that the camera's automatically tracking, the Echo 360 system is already automatically publishing, and the Canvas system is allowing everything to be scheduled in one single place. And it really just makes the whole operation of lecture capture easier for everyone to use. So I'm a big fan of that. And honestly, this is another scenario using Epiphan, which also has some great integrations with Kaltura, Moodle, and Panopto. Again, using an auto tracking camera to capture the video, but then using a lecture capture system to do the integration directly into your learning management system. And in this scenario, we're showing a wireless lapel system. This is the Harmonic Blink, which we have here. We can kind of show off, but it's a great little system for automating lecture capture. Mike, can we take a quick peek at the software? So I wanted to show this to you guys, just a quick peek at the software so you guys could see how this is all set up with these tracking zones and these blocking zones. And so here's the software. And so this software here, I'm going to walk over next to Mike so we can go over it together, is showing the live video from two different SimpleTracks that we just demonstrated. Mike is in the main view, but Mike, if you click device management, just so that they could see at the top tab there, this is where all of your SimpleTracks would show up. So, if you've got, we have customers that have 30, 40, 50 of these SimpleTracks. They can each have a unique name. They report back their serial number, the version that you have, so you can keep them up to date and, consistent with what you're doing. It's just a nice management tool. Now, if we go ahead and stop tracking on, let's say, this main one for a moment here and go into the settings, I want to show there's a little settings button at the bottom there. And what'll happen here is it shows you our tracking area. So this is the kind of tracking area that we have. That way, Mike, who is down here, right, any movement that he does is not even going to interfere because it's not even in the tracking area. Now, Mike, let's just, for an example, click blocking zone 1. And just go ahead and click that, and just it should be inside the tracking zone. And just let's say those chairs over there, there's people that's sitting there, we don't want them to throw off the auto tracking. We can go ahead and put a blocking zone there. And now any movement in that area will be, that's what a blocking zone does. Now let's turn that off because I like to walk in that area. We also have these preset zones down here. Now there's those 4 preset zones. Now those preset zones we'll come back to in a minute, but those are those zones where if there's motion in that preset zone, the camera can do a couple different things. One, it can call a preset and stay there. So we can temporarily turn auto tracking off automatically if we'd like. But we can also automate Crestron, Extron control systems and other third-party systems as well. So we'll take a peek at that in a moment. But let's go to the next tab here, Basic 2, which is at the top, kind of. There you go. This is some really nice information that you can tweak for your professor. But the ability to turn auto zoom, if you want it to be able to zoom in and out for you automatically, the tracking sensitivity, the pan and tilt speeds. We've kind of gotten this where we like it, so we'll leave it where we have it. But every room's a little different. Every presenter's a little different. And usually you don't need it to track too fast because the focus is on recording those whiteboards and the Blackboard notes. If we go to the next tab over here, um, yep, here we go. These are the preset zones. And again, this is a little bit technical, but for those of you who are interested in that, we have some more information about it. This is where you can say, if there's motion in preset 1, send our Crestron system a command to do X, Y, Z. And so it's a really cool new feature that I just wanted to share. Now, if we get out of main view and we exit, let's exit this really quickly at the bottom. And then we'll just turn tracking back on in case we feel like tracking again there. Let's go to remote playback really quickly at the top. There's a tab there. This is where we have the capability of recording directly to the camera. And you can record to the camera. You can view the recordings that are on the camera. Generally, it's just a backup. All right, so I just wanted to show that. We'll answer questions as we go forth, but that is a good look at the HuddleCamHD SimpleTrack 2 and the software that's available. And we've got a great case study that you guys can check out with Case Western University. Now, next I'd like to talk about the PTZ Optics cameras. They're ideal for those medium to large size conference rooms where you want to put in maybe a 12x or a 20x or a 30x camera. These are more used in higher education and maybe high school level classrooms because we have the ability to run longer cables. It supports PoE, power over Ethernet, SDI, which is a great solution. It's very reliable. These cameras have a 5-year warranty, and they include things like NDI and a lot of different integrations that really make using the cameras super popular. There's 3 different models, really. There is an SDI model, and of course, these are available in gray and white. There is an NDI model. You can see the NDI logo there. And then if I flip this one around, I want to flip at least two of these around to show the backs. There's a USB model, which has got the plug and play USB connectivity. And then we have, you can see this one over here. Actually, I'll flip this one around. Let me have it set up here. We have an SDI connectivity with HDMI and NDI, and then one with HDMI and USB. And the USB works with Zoom and all the different pan tilt zoom remote camera control options as well. So it's really popular, and it's very easily mountable on a wall, on a ceiling. We've got a lot of different scenarios mounted even right here in our studio that we can share off. But people are mounting these in all different types of locations. A lot of schools are doing 2 PTZ cameras, as we'll show in a case study. In fact, Mike, let's show the video from that Rosemont case study on mute. And I just want to show a couple quick shots of a case study in a classroom where they're doing 2 different PTZ cameras in a single room, which is really popular. The case study is available on our YouTube channel, and I just thought it would be a good example. So if we just scrub forward, you can see behind me there's a PTZ camera there in the front of the room that shows the remote students, either the teacher, because remember these are PTZ cameras, so you can move it to show different angles. So there's one scenario where this teacher is showing herself as she's presenting to the class, and then there's another camera in the back of the room. So whether the teacher is addressing a remote audience or the students in the actual classroom, having 2 PTZ cameras really helps. And a quick note with that setup I want to show here in my presentation is that for a lot of classes, they're using a PTZ Optics USB camera. That's the one on the left here. There's a USB camera connected to the computer, just plug and play. And then there's an SDI camera that's maybe 50 feet away, right? And if you include the wall and the ceiling, and then that is converted to USB with an SDI to USB capture card. So because USB extenders can be sometimes a little hassle, so SDI is really good for those long runs to the back of a classroom. In some scenarios in education, we have an auditorium, we have a theater, we have a broadcast club. And that's where PTZ Optics cameras start to become more into the live streaming and video production space. And it makes it very nice to have a power over Ethernet switch to power all of the cameras, SDI coming into a capture card, maybe an IP joystick, maybe all of that going out to a content delivery network of some sort. So we mentioned the Rosemont College hybrid model. It's been very, very popular in many, many spaces. So take a look inside of that installation. There's a touch screen there that she uses, two different PTZ cameras, and it's all running Zoom on a small Intel NUC Windows computer. So it's a pretty popular scenario. Now I want to take a quick moment. There's a great video of that there of the remote classroom in action. I want to take a quick moment to address esports. We have a webinar next week on esports, so I'm going to go over this quickly, but esports is becoming so huge, and it's providing students not just with gaming opportunities, but non-gaming opportunities like video production, camera operation, editor, shoutcaster. And so I wanted to let you guys know that we've got some really great information about esports. In fact, a lot of students that we're working with are applying the video production equipment that we offer in esports environments. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail because, as I mentioned, we do have a webinar April 29th. I think that's next Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. But look at this giveaway we have. We're giving away 14 webcams, a PTZ camera, and 6 esports chairs from Spectrum Industries. So that's streamgeeks.us. I know this is a long title here. Building-and-esports-lab-webinar. Julia, we have to ask our team to make those shorter because that is a very long URL to remember. But
that is a long one. I just dropped in the chat an article the commercial integrator just did on that Rosemont College case study. So feel free to check that out, and you can see a little bit more there. Of course, Paul mentioned our YouTube channel where we catalog all of our videos from our case studies as well.
Cool. Well, yeah, and maybe we can share that link, Julia, with everybody in the chat if you're interested. That's a pretty awesome giveaway next week for esports.
I will do that as well.
Awesome. And then another important education scenario is broadcast clubs. And these are becoming more and more popular. I've worked with broadcast clubs for many, many years. I think it's amazing how we're giving students the abilities to learn these skills that can really be applied to almost any industry. Honestly, broadcast clubs really prepare students for real world scenarios. In fact, one of my friends, Avi Bloom, just joined, and he has a broadcast club in the Bronx. And it's amazing what they're able to do. They can help live stream sports for your school. They live stream morning announcements. They're giving students these great career opportunities. Here is a student from Hubbard, Ohio, using a PTZ Optics camera and setting up a tally light. I don't know if many of you guys use tally lights, but they're light indication lights that allow the on-screen, on-air talent to know which camera to look at. Also wanted to mention that all PTZ Optics cameras feature a 5-year warranty, and we're giving away a free webcam with every single PTZ Optics camera today. So here's just some examples of some of the learning opportunities that students have, live streaming sports for their school. This was pre-COVID, as you can tell here, but still streaming is more important than ever. In fact, live streaming graduations is another big topic here. This was last spring, which was obviously during the pandemic. And you can see here that live streaming was the only way to really attend. And so we've got some great information. We're going to be doing our next live stream on live streaming graduations coming up soon. So some of the things that are used there: joystick controllers, PTZ cameras to have that professional live stream with just a single camera operator. So we're here for you guys to help. We're gonna ask. We're gonna jump into a Q&A now. And Julia, pop this in. We did receive a Stellar Service Award for our service department from any of you who have ever spoken with our service team. They really are dedicated to helping you guys with your projects. So we'd love for you guys to succeed. And we're here now to ask questions and answer any questions that you guys might have.
Okay, we have a question. How do I get a tally light to work with your cameras with a Roland V1 HD switcher?
That is a good question. Now, using Roland, I have to think about that one. Um, if you wouldn't mind dropping me a line at paul.richards@ptzoptics.com, I will ask my team about that, because Roland is one that is a hardware video switcher. So as a hardware video switcher, um, it would have to have a tally light output. So I will follow up with you on that one. I'm not sure.
I also just dropped into the chat the link to the promo. Select PTZ Optics cameras up until May 3rd. You just fill out a form and you can get a free webcam. So that tends to work really nicely for teachers who want to work from home, and you can give them a webcam to go along with your purchase. So we do have a question. Paul, can you address classroom audio? What are the best solutions for getting solid audio from around the room into the Zoom?
Okay, great question. I'm happy to answer that one. Thank you, Avi. It's Q&A time, so we're happy to answer that. So I have a couple different solutions I'll show off here, and it really does depend on what you're trying to pick up. Right now, I am using a wireless headset, right? But I'm doing a live stream, I'm doing a broadcast. I'm the only person in this room that is talking, right? There's nobody else here that's part of this conversation. So having a nice little wireless headset is the best option. But it's a little pricey because you have to buy the wireless headset, you have to have batteries, you have to have a USB capture system to capture the audio from the Shure wireless system. And it's a little expensive, but for what we do, it works. For a lot of classrooms, this product here is called the HuddlePod Air, and it's $299. So it's less than the cost of even just a headset. And this is wireless. So a lot of teachers actually keep it plugged in unless they feel the need to unplug it and move it closer to students. And this was so popular. So this is just a plug and play. You plug it into the computer, Mac, PC, Windows, totally wireless from the computer running Zoom or any other solution. And this chatbot, totally wireless, put it anywhere you want. On here, you can mute yourself. You can turn the speaker off so you don't hear the far end, so you can turn it up and down. And it has an 8-hour battery life. What happened was that was so popular, yet there's some bigger classrooms. This has a 12-foot radius. This speakerphone here is a dual chat pod. So this is the HuddlePod Air Duo. And this adds 2 speakerphones. And again, a lot of teachers leave these charged up, leave one right on their desk, and then a second one to go kind of in the middle of the room. So this one especially is a great product. I think it's $599 for 2 wireless speakerphones. And these can be just plugged in all the time so that they're always charged, and then unplugged for 8 hours, and then just plug it back in. So that is what we have from HuddleCamHD. The other camera that has the built-in microphones, this is the HuddleCam 3XA and 10XA. This is a PTZ camera with built-in microphones. Again, just a single USB connection on the back. So very easy for a teacher, plug it into their MacBook, their laptop, a single USB connection. They're using another USB connection for a document camera or another thing. So this is pretty popular. In fact, we had a school district standardize on these, and it's just because it's so easy. It's just one single USB connection right to the computer, comes with a remote control, so you can pan, tilt, and zoom it to what you need to and capture the entire room with audio here. That's how beamforming microphones really work well for that.
And we have another question, Paul. Carlos would like to know if, the cameras come with streaming software, or is that another expense? So you can talk to that a little bit about how you can stream direct.
Sure. So basically a couple things here. One is my favorite free live streaming software is called OBS. It's totally free. And I actually wrote a book that is also free called The Unofficial Guide to Open Broadcaster Software. There's so much you can do with literally free tools out there. In fact, another one more designed for teachers is called Technology Tools for Education, which builds up to using OBS, totally free to live stream, to record in HD. In fact, we had a video on our YouTube channel about the quality of Zoom recordings. Yes, Zoom is super easy, but the recording quality is really not even acceptable in like standard YouTube scenarios. The bit rate of a Zoom recording is between 1 and 2 megabits per second. That is super, super low. That's because everything's going up to the cloud and bandwidth is a big issue. But if you would like to 10x your quality, 20x your quality, you could just record everything locally with something like OBS, which is free, and your videos will look literally 10 to 20 times better than the Zoom recordings. So learning how to use OBS for both for live streaming and recording, again, it's totally free for Mac, PC, or Linux. It's totally free. And I believe at this point at version 27, it's very intuitive. I think that it's something to totally look into. So yes, that is true. Another thing is that you can live stream directly from PTZ Optics cameras and the SimpleTrack 2. So all of our Ethernet connected cameras, you can log into the web browser interface, enter the streaming credentials for your live stream, and stream directly from the camera, which is also pretty popular. I do think that you have more flexibility with the software. Bring the camera into your computer, run OBS, then you can have a lower third, then you can have graphics, then you can have overlays using something like OBS. But from a simplicity standpoint, it is nice to have the capability of live streaming directly from the camera.
And I put in the chat the link to where you can find those free books that Paul's written, so you can just download them. Darian would like to know if the 20x and 30x cameras do auto tracking, or is there any plans to introduce this in the future?
So as of right now, the SimpleTrack 2 is our only auto tracking camera. And let's just show that off again, Mike, with the auto tracking capabilities. You'll see here that I have, it really is designed with a dual camera scenario. So there's one reference camera that allows it to see everything, and then there is an optical zoom camera on top. Now, with a regular PTZ camera, there's no reference camera built in. So it's difficult for the cameras to do auto tracking. But we are working with a company called Martin Roberts Robotics Control, and they have a solution that uses, unfortunately, it's kind of an expensive solution that uses a server, and it uses the image coming from the camera to direct the camera. That solution is called Polymotion Chat, and it's still not totally ready for action. So the SimpleTrack 2 is really our best bet for education right now.
Francis would like to know if the cameras can be used in church for live streaming, integrated with worshiping softwares. And we know the answer to that.
Yes, that is a great question. Yes, you can use these cameras for streaming in churches. That's very, very popular. And you can stream directly from the camera. You can put together a system that supports multiple cameras, and our team will be happy to help you put together a system. So just reach out to partners at PTZOptics.com, and they'll walk you through kind of some of the things you should be thinking about.
All right, I'm dropping that email address into the chat as well, so you guys have that. And so far, no other questions in our chat. Oh, how about streaming? Jimmy would like to know, how about streaming a sporting event in a gym? Great question. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me give you some tips about streaming from a gym. When you're in a gym and there's balls flying, a PTZ camera can get knocked by a ball, and it might be a rare scenario, but you may want to look at getting an enclosure. There are enclosures, basically security camera enclosures. We recommend the DotWorks D2 enclosures. Not only does it make the entire camera vandal-proof, which is an awesome opportunity to keep your investments safe, because these cameras do have a 5-year warranty, so you're going to have them for a while. You might as well protect them. But also, that's just a good reason in a gymnasium scenario to get like an enclosure of some sort. And I've even seen people get cages, but I prefer the security camera setup because it has the clear dome, so you have still great view of everything.
The second thing to think about when you're live streaming sports is to use 60 frames per second if possible. The reason why maybe in a classroom you would use 30 frames per second is because there's not a lot of motion going on. You don't need to go crazy with the frame rate because it does double the processing speed. But in live sports, we're used to seeing 60 frames a second because the fast moving balls and things of that nature look crisper and smoother and more realistic when you use 60 frames a second. So to do that, you just enable the PTZ Optics cameras to be 1080p at 60 frames a second. You can do that over NDI, you can do that over SDI, and then bring all that back into your production switcher. And that's ideal for live sports.
V. Anderson would like to know if the SDI to USB converter introduces any delay.
It may introduce a very small amount of delay. Types of SDI converters we generally will recommend. It looks like that I'm frozen there. I don't know why. See that? Are you there, Julia?
I am.
Okay.
We do have some wind here, so it could be.
It looks like we got a little jitter there. And I seeing more questions on YouTube. We'll definitely get to. The question was about SDI to USB capture converters. It's if you get a good one, and we recommend Magewell. Magewell is some of the best out there. There should be no noticeable latency.
Okay, we have another question. If you bring line audio into a USB PTZ Optics camera, will the camera embed the audio to the HDMI output?
Yes, it can. You can embed the audio into USB and HDMI. The only video output that does not include audio is SDI currently.
And let's see, we have somebody who asked about Mr. Del Toro said he recently had to send in his PTZ Optics SDI Gen 2. Is there an internal clock battery?
Not that I know of, no.
That sounds like a support question.
It's more of a support question. We did release some more advanced information regarding time syncing the cameras using an NTP server. And so check out that video on there if you really want to frame sync all of your cameras to a time syncable server that is now available on the latest PTZ Optics firmware. So speaking of clocks, you can basically have your PTZ Optics camera, all of your PTZ Optics cameras, in fact, set up to basically use an NTP server to record directly to a frame syncable camera. So it's really good for IP video as well.
Mr. Del Toro also mentioned something that we really didn't talk too much about today, but the joysticks. And he said he's done live sports with the with PTZ and the HuddleCam joystick. So we've got, both of our companies offer joysticks.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about the joysticks. The newest joystick is the Super Joy, which I have over here. And when we're talking about sports, yes, and if this was a sports webinar, I probably would have spent a lot more time on the joysticks. The latest joystick is the Super Joy. This joystick is really, really popular right now. It has the ability to not only control multiple cameras. The cool thing about this joystick is it also can do multiple groups very easily. So you may use this at your broadcast club at your school and have a whole group of maybe 4 cameras in the broadcast club, but you may have different cameras in the football field or the auditorium, and you can quickly and easily move this joystick around and have different use cases, different groups for this joystick. It also has these custom buttons that everyone really likes. These custom buttons, again, can do almost anything HTTP or TCP command-wise, meaning you can control vMix, you can control Wirecast, you can control a TriCaster, you can control, we haven't controlled Zoom with it yet, but you can control a lot of things, including an Epiphan Pearl for lecture capture. So really cool opportunities for controlling cameras with these joysticks, yes.
We are still getting questions in the Zoom chat. Darian would like to know if we have any tutorials on correctly doing color correction and white balancing with the cameras?
Yes, we do. We have a video tutorial, and we do have so we have a video tutorial, and we have a guide. So in our downloads area of our website, there is a color matching guide, and there's a video that goes with it. So I know it is a struggle for a lot of people. The biggest, best place to start is to make sure if you're in a controlled area, use manual exposure. Okay, make sure all the cameras are set to the same exposure. So in a classroom, that would probably make sense unless there's a lot of light pouring in that changes throughout the day. If you're in an environment where everything changes a lot, then you should be using auto exposure. That's the exposure side of things. And then is the color matching itself. And the color matching is done in the color settings of the camera. So when you're doing color settings, it has to do with white balance. And we have a whole guide on how to choose the right white balance based on the different application that you have.
Shelby has a good general question. She says, there are many placements for cameras in a classroom. What do you feel is the best to catch all aspects of the room?
That's a great question. Do you have some ideas on that, Julia, or do you want me to take that one?
Well, I mean, for sure, you want to get a view of the instructor and any kind of technologies behind them, like a whiteboard or a blackboard. And then, like we showed in the Rosemont case, if you can also have a camera to be in the back of the room to show the students, for those hybrid learners who want to see, that's part of the whole engagement piece, I think, is the fact that, students want to see their fellow students when they can't even be in the classroom. So
yeah, Mike, I don't know if we could show that B-roll maybe one more time, but I did get the opportunity to sit in on a live class and see what it's like to have a presenter, have a lecturer actually present to an audience. This is similar to what we're doing now, right? Sometimes I can't remember if we're on the auto tracker or not, but you're now presenting to a virtual audience on a TV, and then also trying to accommodate the students who are actually physically in the classroom. And this is going to be the near foreseeable future. So the camera in the front of the room, right? I mean, by that, I mean the camera that's above the TV or next to the TV, that allows the students who are joining remotely to see their teacher when the teacher is looking at the television, which is happening right now on screen, as you guys can see here. So as she's presenting to her screen, where the students are, it makes sense to have a camera looking at her. But as soon as she turns around and she needs to address a student in the room, now she's got her back to that camera, and that's where the other camera comes in. And for teachers who are using, there's teachers who are using Zoom, and there's teachers who are using other solutions. I will say that it's very easy to switch between two cameras using Zoom. It's a lot of teachers know it's Control N to cycle through the cameras that are available inside of Zoom. So that's a great opportunity to at least have those two cameras. A third, a lot of times, is a document camera or something that can show close-up materials, a ceiling camera shooting down. And that would be like a third option. But definitely front and back of the classroom is my recommendation.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. So back to sporting, Jimmy has another question. How well does the auto tracking camera work in a sporting situation?
That's a great question. It really doesn't work very well in sports. So this is a lecture capture scenario. As you maybe saw in the presentation, if you were here earlier, it's really set up to track a single presenter at the front of a room. So we've got a lot of tools in there to have blocking areas, to block where maybe the students are, to block maybe where a television is. I have a TV over here. You'll see this TV is certainly not, screwing anything up. When I walk over here, the TV has some movement on the background. That's not going to screw up the auto tracking capabilities. But in a sports environment, there is just too many different people moving, too much movement for reliable tracking of a single person, because this camera uses facial and motion tracking. So it's looking for that one main presenter.
Mike would like to know if the tracking camera, if you can use it with an RS-232, and if so, is it possible to switch tracking on and off?
Can you use it with RS-232? Is it possible to turn tracking on and off? Yes, the camera includes RS-232 and RS-485. So that is the standard, serial control communication capabilities, and that can be integrated into a Crestron or an Extron control system, for example, or a serial joystick controller using the protocols available on our website, including Visca. Now, regarding the preset zones, that does give you the ability to also use the camera to control systems in a more automagic way, a more touchless way, right? By somebody walks into a preset zone, you can trigger an HTTP or a TCP command to then have a Crestron or an control system do something. So that is something that you probably won't find in any other auto tracking cameras currently that I know of. So it's kind of got both input and output capabilities. For control capabilities, Mike showed earlier how to manually turn tracking on and off. There's no automated way of doing that, but there is a way to do it with the control protocols and obviously the software that's included.
I am just looking for, we just redid our website, the PTZ Optics website. So Corey is interested in getting the link to where the guides for white balancing are.
There is a brand new website, so I apologize for that. The brand new website has a download.
Oh, wait, there's a camera settings guide.
Yes, the camera settings guide. That is it.
That's it. Okay. I will just drop that link into the chat here, and then you can access that. It's a PDF. I think we do have another question. This is from M. Tarpey. I'm just finishing up an install at an education system in an art museum with 3 cameras per classroom. There's a PTZ, an overhead, and a tripod on a dolly cam, using OBS and a Stream Deck, using NDI virtual cam and Zoom, and controlling audio in the classroom so that students in class can see and communicate with people at home. It's been a bit tricky. Any suggestions on how to wrangle that effectively? So it sounds like the audio piece is what's presenting the most difficulty from the gist of this question, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, and from that amount of information, it's hard to provide guidance. Audio is generally a tricky scenario, and we showed some basic audio, USB connected solutions, which are the HuddlePod Airs, for example. But audio can get tricky in larger spaces when you're using IP video with different types of technologies. So I would say send me an email at paul.richards@ptzoptics.com, and I'd have to take a closer look at how you have things wired and take a peek at the wiring diagram. And then also think about what's easiest for the teacher to manage in a realistic setting.
The other thing that we recommend, we work with an e-commerce division, but Nariva makes great sound solutions. So, that might really be an option too for you.
Yeah, they have great audio bars.
Okay. Aaron wants to know, can older RG6 coax cable with BNC connectors be used to pass SDI from PTZ Optics cameras around with 150 feet of distance?
It's definitely possible. I'm not exactly sure the exact coax cable that you have, but yes, it is possible. Essentially, you need to look up the bandwidth capabilities of that cable and remember that you're sending uncompressed video off of these cameras. So it probably won't handle 1080p at 60 frames a second, which requires 3G SDI cabling, which is fairly new, but it may be able to handle 720p video at 30 frames a second. So you just need to look up the quality of the cable, and the bandwidth is usually what you're looking at there that it can handle, and then set the resolution and frame rate of the PTZ Optics camera accordingly.
So what do you think? Are we ready to do that giveaway?
We should. And I just wanted to answer one more question I saw from Dan. He's asking, Using a PTZ camera as an encoder, meaning streaming directly off the camera. Do you need to log into the camera to start the broadcast or just power up the camera? The great news is you can just power up the camera. So if you're using Facebook or YouTube, they do offer the option to have a persistent URL. So a persistent stream key that never changes. You pop that into the camera, save it, reboot it, and it starts streaming. Turn the camera off. Obviously, the stream stops. The next time you turn the camera on, it just starts again. So I think
looks like we have time for just one more question, maybe. It's 1:56, so we just want to try to wrap up at 2. Graham would like to know if there's any way to get the microphones from the HuddleCam to work with HDMI rather than just USB.
Well, those are really wireless USB speakerphones, and that's what they're designed for. If you were to possibly run the audio out of one of these into a PTZ Optics camera, it's possible to embed that audio into an HDMI output, but really that would not be common practice. Most customers are using these, plug it into your computer, connect it to Zoom, it's your microphone, it's your speaker, and that is kind of the tried and true, kind of trouble-free way of using these. Now, I'm going to pull a winner for someone who's going to win a HuddleCamHD Pro. So these are in stock. They've been really, really popular, as you can imagine. And we have had some issues keeping them in stock in the past, but we've got lots of them now. And we're excited to send one to one of you today. It is going to be awesome. And we have here, I'm going to pick the winner. And then I'm just going to pop it into the chat, Julia, so we can share it with everyone because they have to be here. Allison Barkley. And so I'll just pop it in the chat. If she's not here, I think I see someone named Allison in the chat.
I see an Allison who's in our meeting.
Are you here, Allison? It looks like she's here. Oh, you know what? She might not even be able to unmute herself. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody unmute themselves if they have any final questions they want to ask.
I'll let Allison unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes.
Yeah, I've been here watching.
Awesome. Congratulations, Allison. I'll send you a quick email and then you can just send us your address and we'll send out the HuddleCamHD Pro to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. Now, I just allowed everyone to unmute themselves. If there's somebody who is still waiting and didn't get a guess to ask a question, please feel free to ask a question while we're here. Is that all right, Mike? Can we go over a little bit if there's a question?
I have a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I would like to find out, because I'm looking at the PTZ camera that does the tracking. Mm-hmm. I want to find out if I want to use that tracking because I have a pastor that's really moves a lot when he preaches. So I just want to make sure. I wanted to find out, one, how much is the price? And could I use that tracking camera through NDI?
That is a good question. So first of all, the price is $2,999. And I will say that we're really getting close to, a lot of people have been asking for NDI. And I think that if you stay tuned, NDI will very likely be something coming out soon. I know we've been asked about it. Our engineers are working on it. It doesn't ship with NDI, but you do have the capability of connecting via USB to your computer, SDI to a capture card, which you could connect to it that way. And then NDI is something we are very close and we're working on to hopefully have available.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Raymond is asking, what is the range of the tracking camera? It can go up to 50 feet away. So 50 feet away to capture a head and shoulders shot. So it's quite a range, ideal for those medium, but it can also be closer as well.
Yep.
All right.
Well, great job. And I think, we're pretty much done.
Awesome.
Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, follow up. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, we are more than happy to share that with you. And as Paul mentioned, we won the Systems Contractor News. We won an award for our stellar service. So our support team is really there to help support you throughout your project and along the way if you get stuck at all. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
TV go out on us?